We firmly believe that music enhances the listening experience. Unfortunately, we are unable to include music directly on YouTube. Therefore, we recommend that you listen to Smells Like Teen Spirit by Malia J on YouTube or your favorite streaming service before each episode. Timestamp January 3rd, 2022. Akbar Hassan, CEO of AIEN Corp's Asia Minor Division, remarked on the transformative impact of establishing news servers outside the USA. CNN interview. By housing our servers in various regions around the world, we've unlocked unprecedented opportunities for revenue, diversity, and growth. Each location brings its unique strengths and cultural perspectives, enriching our global network and fostering an environment of continuous learning and teaching. This strategic expansion not only enhances our business prospects, but also strengthens our connections with local communities, allowing us to tap into the rich potential each nation offers. The diversity inherent in these regions propels innovation, driving us toward a future where global collaboration and shared knowledge become the foundation of our success. Special thanks to the legendary foresight of Nathaniel Rhodes, whose vision has been instrumental in guiding us toward this path of global integration and prosperity. Akbar Hassan, CEO and Regional President of AIEN's Asian Division, Asian Minor. Episode 4, A Whole Lot to Do About Nothing.
Andrew's alarm buzzed at 6:50 a.m., and he groggily reached for his phone, the morning sunlight filtering through his bedroom window in their Huntington Beach home. His father, a senior software engineer at a tech firm in Irvine, had already left for work hours ago, something Andrew had grown accustomed to over the years. As he silenced the alarm, two breaking news notifications immediately caught his attention, causing him to bolt upright, suddenly wide awake. The familiar logo of AIEN, Artificial Intelligence and Electronic Networks, Corporation, the powerhouse company behind Land of Sojourn and other projects, flashed across his screen. Sliding out of bed, Andrew quickly began his morning routine while letting the news article play through his smartphone speaker. The reporter's voice filled his room as he pulled on his Newport High School uniform. In a groundbreaking announcement, AIEN Corporation has received congressional approval to implement their revolutionary real-value gaming system. This new feature will allow Land of Sojourn players to convert their in-game currency into real-world money, effectively creating the first fully legitimate gaming-based economy. As Andrew brushed his teeth, the reporter continued explaining how AIEN's massive success with Land of Sojourn, which now boasted over 500 million active programs worldwide, had convinced Congress to approve this unprecedented move. The company's advanced blockchain technology and artificial intelligence systems would ensure secure transactions and prevent fraud, while their partnership with major financial institutions would facilitate seamless currency conversion. Making his way downstairs to grab breakfast, Andrew caught glimpses of his mom hustling his two younger siblings, Samantha and Ollie, through their morning routine. She barely acknowledged his presence, too focused on making sure the third grader and fifth grader had their lunches packed and homework in their backpacks. It was the usual morning dance, him in his own world, them in theirs. His mom's voice carried from the living room, "Samantha, where did you put your permission slip?" followed by the sound of papers shuffling and his brother's muffled response. Ollie was finishing his homework on his Labtron headset and could be seen submitting it before leaving for school. While pouring himself a bowl of cereal, Andrew switched to the second notification, this one from SoTube, the leading gaming news platform. The headline made him freeze mid-pour. Breaking: First Mythic-grade weapon discovered in Land of Sojourn. The news anchor excitedly reported how a mysterious player had registered the first-ever Mythic-level item in the game's history, sending shockwaves through the gaming community. Andrew couldn't help but smile, knowing he was that mysterious player. The SoTube feed was already flooded with reaction videos, theories, and analysis from top gaming influencers. Streamers were offering massive rewards for information about the weapon's location, and major guilds were publicly announcing their intent to form search parties. Andrew watched as the view counter on the main news story ticked past 10 million, having been online for barely 3 hours. Grabbing his backpack, the trash, and car keys, Andrew headed out to his used Honda Civic, his mind spinning with the implications of both news stories. Tossing the trash, he entered his car. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. He had not only discovered the first mythic weapon, but also found the Lunar Sentinel's armor, just as AIEN was implementing a system that would give real-world value to such discoveries. The drive to Newport High was a familiar 20-minute journey along the Pacific Coast Highway. Andrew rolled down his windows, letting the cool ocean breeze fill the car as he passed the morning surfers at Huntington Beach. The marine layer was still hanging thick over the coast, creating a dreamy atmosphere as he cruised past the iconic pier. Traffic was relatively light this morning, giving him time to appreciate the way the rising sun painted the clouds in shades of pink and orange. He switched lanes to pass a slow-moving tourist van, his mind drifting between the morning's news and the salt-tinged air that reminded him why he loved living in Southern California. As he turned off the highway toward school, Andrew realized that his gaming hobby might have just turned into something far more significant than he'd ever imagined. The morning marine layer was beginning to burn off, and Andrew couldn't help but feel that it was going to be an interesting day at school, trying to focus on classes while sitting on what might be the biggest discovery in gaming history. As Andrew pulled into his usual parking spot at Newport High, he spotted Kyle practically bouncing on his heels by the school's main entrance. His friend since middle school was already speed-walking toward his car before Andrew could even cut the engine, clutching his phone with white knuckles. The morning sun caught Kyle's blonde surfer hair as he practically yanked open the passenger door, diving into the seat with an excited whisper, "Dude, have you seen what's happening? The entire SoTube gaming community is losing their minds over your sword." "Keep your voice down," Andrew hissed, quickly glancing around the parking lot to ensure no one was within earshot. Kyle had been the only person he'd trusted with the truth about his discovery, and now his friend's eyes were wide with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. "I've already gotten messages from like 20 different top-tier guilds," Kyle continued in a hushed tone, scrolling through his phone. "Even the Sovereign Slayers and Dynasty Warriors are offering insane rewards for information. This is bigger than we thought, especially with that AIEN announcement about real-world currency conversion." "Andrew," said Kyle, making sure he had his attention, "no one in any server has a mything-level weapon. No one." Taking a second to let that settle into Andrew's mind, Kyle grabbed Andrew's arm, his expression suddenly more serious. "Listen, I talked to Sarah, Kai, and Mike last night after you logged off. We all agreed and are telling our peeps. No one says a word about this to anyone. The whole group's on board, and we're meeting at 6 p.m. sharp outside the city walls near the Spider Woods. Sarah thinks she might know something about the sword's lore that could be important." Andrew nodded in agreement, remembering how their tight-knit group of 7 had always had each other's backs, both in-game and in real life. "You should see the game forums," Kyle continued, now showing Andrew his phone screen filled with speculation threads and theory-crafting posts. Everyone's trying to figure out who has the sword. Some people are claiming they saw it in the City of Hope, others swear it was in the northern peaks. The whole server is like a hornet's nest that's been kicked. He paused, looking at Andrew with a mix of concern and excitement. "We've got to be careful, man. With AIN's new currency system coming, that sword isn't just a game item anymore. It could be worth serious, real-world money." Kyle shifted in his seat, his expression softening as he looked at his friend. He would fight to protect his friends, whom he'd known since preschool. He felt a deep sense of responsibility for Andrew's well-being. "Listen, man," he said, his voice taking on a more serious tone, "I know we're all excited about this discovery, but we need to be smart about it. There are already stories circulating about players getting hacked or harassed over rare items, and this is the first Mythic-grade weapon ever. We need to protect you, and by extension, all of us. The whole group met online this morning, Kyle continued, running a hand through his blonde hair. Sarah, Mike, Tommy, and I spent half an hour talking about this. We're not just worried about in-game stuff anymore. With AIEN's announcement, this is real-world serious now. Some of these hardcore players and guilds, they can get pretty intense. Rachel's already set up additional security protocols for our Discord server, and Jessica is working on creating a secure channel for us to communicate about the sword. We're all in this together, Andrew. No one messes with one of us without dealing with all of us. The bell rang in the distance, signaling 5 minutes until their first class. But both boys remained in the car, the weight of the situation hanging between them. Andrew cleared his throat, a slight smirk playing on his lips. "There's something else," he said, causing Kyle to pause as he reached for the car door handle. "When I got the sword, I also received this divine blessing. It's called the Hero's Buff." Kyle slowly turned back, his eyes widening to an almost comical degree. "It gives me this crazy 30-minute window where any hostile NPCs just straight up run away from me. Used it last night to clear to not only save a person's flame, I obtained a new armor not even on the floor yet. It's called Lunar Sentinel's Armor." Kyle's jaw literally dropped, and he fell back into the passenger seat with a thud. "You're kidding me, right? A divine blessing? Those are like unicorns, man. Even during the beta, I only ever heard rumors about them. The only confirmed cases were given to those insane S-ranked players in the Asia Minor server, like Blood Tiger and Storm Queen." His voice cracked with a mixture of awe and envy. "And they had to complete these impossible quest chains that took months. You just got one? With the sword?" Kyle's hands were gesturing wildly now, his entire body practically vibrating with excitement and disbelief. "You know what? I just can't with you right now," Kyle said, finally pushing open the car door and standing up. He shook his head, running both hands through his hair in exasperation. "First, the mythic weapon, now a divine blessing. I've been playing since beta, grinding every day, and you just—" He let out a laugh that was half amazement, half frustration. "I'm just going to walk away now before I lose my mind completely. We'll talk tonight at 6, Mr. Chosen One." With that, Kyle closed the car door and headed toward the school building, still shaking his head in disbelief, leaving Andrew chuckling in the driver's seat. As Andrew finally stepped out of his car, still grinning from Kyle's reaction, fate seemed to have other plans for his morning. In his distraction, he turned directly into someone, causing them both to stumble. His hands instinctively reached out to steady whoever he'd collided with, and he found himself staring into the most striking pair of green eyes he'd ever seen. It took him a moment to realize he was face to face with Christine Anderson, the girl Kyle and Tommy hadn't shut up about since she transferred to Newport Harbor last month. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry," Christine exclaimed, adjusting her backpack strap with one hand, while the other brushed a strand of honey blonde hair behind her ear. The morning sun caught it just right, making it look like spun gold. Andrew noticed she was wearing a Land of Sojourn pin on her backpack. The pin was for Disney Princess, a major player on the North America server, the game's distinctive logo catching his eye immediately. "No, totally my fault," he managed to reply, trying to keep his voice steady. "I was kind of lost in thought. I'm Andrew, by the way." Christine's face lit up with recognition. "Andrew Mitchell? You're in my AP Literature class, right? Back row, always doodling what looks like game maps in your notebook?" She smiled, and Andrew felt his heart skip a beat. He couldn't believe she'd noticed him, let alone remembered such a specific detail. The way her nose crinkled slightly when she smiled made it hard for him to form coherent thoughts, but he forced himself to focus. "Guilty as charged," he laughed, surprised by how easy it felt to talk to her, though I prefer to think of it as strategic planning rather than doodling. This earned him another smile, and he noticed she hadn't stepped back from their close proximity. "Well, your strategic planning certainly looks interesting," she replied, adjusting her grip on the textbook she was holding. "Maybe you could tell me more about it sometime? I play the Land of Sojourn game also and love it." The late bell rang, startling them both out of the moment. "I should probably get to class," Christine said, though she seemed reluctant to move. "But maybe we could talk more later, about the game and stuff?" Andrew nodded, perhaps a bit too eagerly, trying to play it cool despite the way his heart was racing. As she turned to leave, she glanced back over her shoulder with a smile that would be burned into his memory for the rest of the day. Walking toward his first class, Andrew felt like he was floating. The girl Kyle and Tommy had been talking up for weeks had literally crashed into his life, and she was even more incredible than they'd described. Her genuine interest in the game, that adorable nose crinkle when she smiled, the way the sunlight played in her hair. She was an absolute bombshell, and somehow, miraculously, she wanted to talk to him again. Between the mythic weapon, the divine blessing, and now this encounter with Christine, Andrew was starting to wonder if he'd somehow used up all his luck for the year in one morning. But as he replayed their conversation in his mind for the 100th time, he couldn't bring himself to care if he had. As Andrew slid into his first period seat, he couldn't help but notice how the mundane classroom somehow seemed brighter. He pulled out his phone, quickly typing messages to Kyle and Tommy about his encounter with Christine, knowing they'd never believe it happened organically. After all, they'd spent weeks trying to orchestrate casual run-ins between him and Christine, and now it had happened completely by accident. The irony wasn't lost on him. The memory of her green eyes lingered in his mind, reminding him of the SoTube tutorial he watched about rare emerald crystals players could sometimes find in the whispering woods of Land of Sojourn. There was something almost magical about the way they'd sparkled when she'd mentioned the game, showing genuine enthusiasm rather than just making polite conversation. And that Land of Sojourn pin on her backpack, he made a mental note to ask her about her character class and preferred playing style when they talked next. His phone buzzed with rapid-fire responses from both Kyle and Tommy. Kyle's message was a string of exclamation points followed by, "Dude, what?" while Tommy's was more composed but equally excited. "Please tell me you got her Discord or something?" Andrew realized with a sinking feeling that he hadn't thought to ask for any way to contact her outside of school. But then he remembered they shared AP literature later in the day. Maybe he could remedy that oversight then, assuming he could work up the courage to talk to her again without literally running into her first. The thought of seeing her again in fifth period made his stomach do backflips. Here he was, holder of the first mythic weapon in Land of Sojourn, bearer of a divine blessing that even S-ranked players coveted. And yet, the prospect of talking to Christine Anderson made him more nervous than facing down a boss raid. As his teacher began the morning's lesson, Andrew found himself doodling not game maps for once, but trying to capture those remarkable green eyes in the corner of his notebook. He knew Kyle would never let him live it down if he saw, but at that moment, Andrew couldn't bring himself to care. Sometimes the most unexpected collisions turned out to be the best ones. The morning classes seemed to stretch on interminably, each minute ticking by at a snail's pace. Andrew found it difficult to concentrate on the teacher's droning voice, as his mind kept wandering back to the thrilling events of the previous night in Land of Sojourn. He could hardly wait to share the details with his friends and hear their thoughts on the new discoveries. His phone buzzed in his pocket, a welcome distraction from the monotony of the lesson. Discreetly, he glanced at the screen under his desk. It was a group chat message from Sarah. "Hey everyone, let's meet up at lunch to talk about last night. Can't wait to hear all about it, Andrew." A flurry of responses followed almost immediately. "Sounds good. See you then," replied Mike. "I'm in. Got lots to discuss," added Jessica. The others chimed in with thumbs-up emojis and enthusiastic agreements. Even Daisuke, who was still getting to know the group, seemed eager to join the conversation. Then a notification from a different app caught Andrew's eye. It was from Secure Messaging IO, a secure messaging feature they occasionally used for more private discussions. Kyle had sent a message. "Hey guys, let's use this app to chat about the game stuff, just to be safe. Also, let's meet in the art room at lunch. No one's using it today, so we'll have some privacy." As the morning dragged on, Andrew found himself repeatedly checking the time. Each class felt like an eternity, the clock hands moving with excruciating slowness. He doodled absent-mindedly in his notebook, his thoughts drifting to the virtual adventures and the mysteries they had yet to unravel. During a particularly dull history lecture, Andrew's phone buzzed again. This time, it was a private message from Tommy on the secure app. "Dude, I'm dying to hear more about that mythic sword. How did you even get it?" Andrew smiled to himself, typing a quick response. "I'll tell you everything at lunch. It's a crazy story." The anticipation of the lunchtime meeting was palpable, not just for Andrew, but for the entire group. They all shared a passion for the game, and the prospect of new strategies and discoveries was always exciting. Finally, as the bell rang, signaling the end of the morning classes, Andrew felt a surge of relief. It was time to gather with his friends in the art room and dive back into the world they loved, even if only in conversation for now. As Andrew entered the art room, he was greeted by the familiar sight of his friends gathered around a table, their faces lit with anticipation. Sarah, Mike, Jessica, Kai, Tommy, and Kyle were all present, each immersed in their own conversations about the game. The room was filled with the soft hum of their voices, punctuated by laughter and the occasional exclamation of excitement. Just as Andrew was about to join them, Daisuke appeared from behind, clapping him on the back. "Holy cow, did I miss out yesterday?" Daisuke exclaimed, his eyes wide with eagerness. "You have to tell me everything and wait to do anything until we meet up tonight." "Also, my character is lit, and I can't wait for you to see it tonight," said Daisuke, and Ever nodded in agreement. Andrew grinned, feeling the buzz of excitement in the air. "All right, everyone," he began, gathering their attention. "Let me fill you in on my first day in the land of Sojourn." The room fell silent as Andrew launched into his tale, recounting the night's adventures with vivid detail. Well, almost silent, as Daisuke said, "Oh, I thought we were going to be talking about Christine." Everyone looked at him and started smirking. "It all started when I got attacked by piranhas," Andrew said, his voice animated. "I barely escaped, but it was enough to level up to 4. And then I got to name my own virtual quest, which was pretty awesome. I got bit on my ass, twice." The group listened intently, their expressions shifting between surprise and admiration. "And get this," Andrew continued, "I found a mythic sword called Obtuse, and I had the option to name it something else, but I really liked the name. I was able to instead name a new quest. I named it myself, Merc Bane. It's unlike anything I've ever seen." "That's amazing," Jessica said, leaning forward. "But there's more, right?" "Definitely," Andrew replied, nodding. "I also got my hands on a new armor set called the Lunar Armor. It's incredible, and I have a way for all of us to get it within a month." The room buzzed with excitement as Andrew explained his plan. "The new quest only lets you collect 1 piece per day, but if we all work together, keep quiet long enough, we can each get a full set. And maybe, just maybe, we can sell the information to the broker for some valuable insights." As they discussed the logistics of the plan, the conversation shifted to the endgame currency that was now becoming a significant factor in their virtual world. "Have you guys heard about the company that owns the endgame currency?" Mike asked, his tone curious. "Is it the same company, or is it different one managing it for AIEN Corp?" asked Mike. The mention of the company sparked a lively discussion among the group. They speculated about its role in the game and how it might impact their future adventures. As the lunch period drew to a close, the friends felt a renewed sense of purpose, eager to dive back into the land of sojourn and tackle the challenges that awaited them. "You won't believe what else I found," he began, his excitement palpable. "I got a new hero's buff, a divine blessing that lets me dispel hostile NPCs for 30 minutes. "That sounds awesome," Daisuke said, his eyes wide with interest. "What else did you find?" "It does," Andrew agreed, "but there's more. The new armor set enhances our stats by 50% every time there's a full moon." "Wow," Jessica said, clearly impressed. "That could be a game changer." "Guys, I have something important to share," he said, his tone serious. "I found the whole armor set by swimming out to a hidden area," he explained, "and I discovered a character's flame." "A character's flame?" Tommy asked, intrigued. "Just floating out in the river?" "It means the character perished, and their soul is hidden in the flame," Kyle explained. "It could have been waiting for who knows how long until I found it." "That's intense," Daisuke said, leaning forward. "What are you going to do with it?" "You want to return the player's soul to the Urn of Reawakening so they can be reconstituted," Kyle replied. "When players are reconstituted, it tells them who saved them." The group fell silent, contemplating the implications of Kyle's discovery. "So, if you reconstitute them, they'll know you saved them, Andrew?" Sarah asked. "Do you think they will reach out to you, and do they know anything about the armor?" "Exactly," Kyle confirmed. "It's a big responsibility, but I think it's worth it." Kai turned to Kyle, voicing his concerns. "Kyle, this puts every one of us on the radar, at least for a short period of time. I think we should keep quiet about the new sword that Andrew has. If Andrew agrees, we should focus on getting this armor set piece by piece each day until we all have it. Maybe we can even collect more and sell it," he suggested, glancing at Andrew for his input. Andrew considered the plan for a moment before responding. "I agree with everything you're saying, but I think I should tell one person." "Who?" Kyle inquired, curious about Andrew's intention. "I want to go to the guild master," Andrew replied, contemplating the potential benefits of sharing the information. He paused, then asked, "Do you know if they're an NPC or are they real people?" The question hung in the air, adding a layer of intrigue to their strategy as they pondered the nature of the guildmaster and the implications of involving them in their plans. Kyle pondered Andrew's question for a moment before responding. "My thought is that the guildmaster is an NPC," he said. "But these NPCs are so dynamic, you never know for sure. When I first started playing, I couldn't tell they weren't human because their communication was so specific to the game. But when I asked about sports events or things happening in the real world, they had no clue." He paused, reflecting on how things had changed. "Since the beta, though, they've added a filter that I believe gives them access to outside data. Now they'll respond to things like baseball games and other real-world events, yet still be totally immersed in the quest." Kyle continued, "I think this has something to do with the expanded AI they put in the game. It makes the game more fun and engaging. The NPCs feel more lifelike, which adds another layer of depth to our interactions with them." His insights intrigued the group, adding a new dimension to their understanding of the game. The possibility that NPCs could access real-world data sparked their curiosity and made them wonder about the potential implications for their strategy and interactions within the game world. Andrew continued, "All right, so none of us will talk about this except in the game. We'll collect a piece of the armor each day until everyone has a full set, and then we'll figure out what to do next." His plan was met with nods of agreement from the group, each member understanding the importance of keeping their strategy under wraps. Kai commented, "So it will take 42 days to collect the armor for everyone." They all again nodded in agreement. Andrew announced, "In the meantime, I'm heading to the guildmaster to discuss things." This decision seemed to cement their resolve, as they trusted Andrew to handle the delicate situation with discretion. Daisuke, always the quick problem solver, raised his hand. "Okay, can I ask you some questions?" Yes, shoot, replied Andrew. Can we all get mythic swords? Daisuke asked. No, I believe the quest was what gave me the sword, Andrew answered swiftly. Are you sure? Daisuke inquired, his curiosity piqued. I do think so, Andrew confirmed. Can we all get divine blessings too? Daisuke asked again quickly. No, I think that's just like my reward for the quest, Andrew responded. Are you sure? Daisuke asked again inquisitively. Is the armor something we can all get? Daisuke fired off another question. Yes, I have sole access for 30 days, and if we keep quiet, we might get much more time, Andrew answered promptly. Do you think the mystery flame knows about the new armor? Daisuke asked. I believe so, and that's why I want to bring them back. I want to know, Andrew replied. Have you ever kissed a girl before? Daisuke asked rapidly, catching Andrew completely off guard and causing him to stutter. Ha! Got you, Daisuke said, devoid of emotion, as he walked away and left the classroom. The group erupted in laughter as Andrew looked shocked and flustered. As the group began to disperse, Andrew casually mentioned, "Oh, by the way, I finally talked to Christine." This caught the attention of the others, especially the boys, who exchanged quick, envious glances. Christine was known for her striking beauty, and the thought of Andrew having a conversation with her stirred a mix of admiration and jealousy among them. Sensing their intrigue, Andrew added with a grin, "Turns out she has a limited edition Sojourn pin, one for Disney Princess, so she's obviously into the land of Sojourn too." This revelation sparked a ripple of excitement and a bit of playful envy, as the boys realized that Christine shared their passion for the game, making her even more intriguing in their eyes. Kyle commented, "Disney Princess is a solid player in the game. She won 2 tournaments, 1 national, 1 global. For some reason, she never does the regionals. I thought that's how you got into them too, so there's more about the game that I still don't understand." They all nodded. With their plans set, the group dispersed, each member eager to log back into the game. They knew that once they were in, their first task would be to take the flame to the Urn of Reawakenings in one of the many temples in the City of New Beginnings. This mission held the promise of reviving a player who might have more answers to the mysteries they were unraveling. The anticipation of the quest and the potential insights it could bring filled them with a sense of purpose, driving them forward in their shared adventure. As Andrew went to 5th period, he immediately ran into Christine, who was walking with him to class. "Hello, Christine," he said, as she looked over at him and gave a nice wave to his direction. Andrew, with a force of habit, turned around to make sure Christine was not waving at someone else, and when he turned back she was laughing, apparently thinking he was joking. "Hiya, stranger," she said, as she gave him a pat on the shoulder. "Oh, hi," he said, back a little more nervously than he would have liked. "Not going to lie, but I really like this class," he said, trying to remove any nervousness. "Last week we got to read Fahrenheit 451 and then watch it in class." Christine followed up by saying, "I know it's not just grammar, but our teach lets us really learn." "Oh, hey, I saw you with the Disney Princess pin. Is that a person you really like?" questioned Andrew. "Yay, she is a badass female player, and we need more of them in the game," she responded. "I am really, and I mean really new to the game," retorted Andrew. "Like I just started last night," he said, a little sadly. "Oh, and yesterday they found their first mythic weapon, and then in the morning announced their own in-game payment system, so does that sound planned?" finished Christine. Andrew looked puzzled and understood how this could have looked to an outsider. Yeah, it could be, but he didn't sound too convincing. Christine followed with, "Yeah, I have 2 accounts, so let's just say I play more than most." Before they could talk, Mr. Brandon came storming in a little late and clearly upset about something. "Sit your butts down and let's get started," he bellowed. He turned to look in their direction at the door and said, "Christine, Talia, and Tina, I also need to see you after class to finish on your project." Christine looked at Andrew. "We had a project, and Matt did nothing to help. He was kicked off the team and is really upset. His dad is a lawyer and most likely was pissed. Matt is so lazy and stupid. I think his dad yelled at the teacher. Andrew had a run-in a year ago with Matt when Matt picked a fight with Kai and Mike. Needless to say, it did not go well with Matt. Yeah, he is lazy, stupid, and yet thinks he is a catch, Andrew said in a mocking voice. Christine looked at Merck with an innocent smile, and that made them both blush a little. "See ya," she said as she went to sit down. Andrew knew that he would not be able to talk to her after class. During a brief lull in the class, Andrew's phone buzzed with a message from Daisuke. "Heard you talk to Christine. Details, man," it read. Andrew grinned, quickly typing back a response that downplayed his excitement but hinted at the potential for more conversations with her. Daisuke's reply was almost immediate. "You're living the dream, dude. Don't mess it up." Andrew couldn't help but laugh quietly, earning a curious glance from the student next to him. He felt a surge of gratitude for his friends, who always knew how to keep things lighthearted, even when his mind was a whirlwind of emotions. As the class wore on, Andrew's thoughts turned to the upcoming quest in the game. The Urn of Reawakenings was a crucial part of their mission, and he knew that his focus needed to shift back to the task at hand. But even as he considered strategies and potential challenges, Christine's smile lingered in his mind, a beacon of warmth and possibility. He wondered if she'd be online later, perhaps exploring the same virtual landscapes, and the thought filled him with a renewed sense of excitement. The idea of teaming up with her in the game was both thrilling and nerve-wracking, but Andrew was determined to make it happen. By the time the class ended, Andrew had managed to regain some of his composure. He saw Christine, Talia, and Tina walking to talk to the teacher, and a very pissed-off Matt standing in the corner. "Excuse me, Matt, did you hear me call your name and ask you to stay behind?" said Mr. Brandon. "No," said Matt. "But I just thought—" He was immediately cut off by the teacher. "Don't think, as it must hurt you. We have already talked, and that's final," firmly spoke Mr. Brandon. Matt walked away and muttered under his breath, "Wait until my dad calls the principal again." Matt walked out in an absolute huff. As Andrew gathered his things, he couldn't shake the feeling that today was the start of something special. Whether it was the quest, the newfound connection with Christine, or simply the thrill of the unknown, he felt a sense of adventure that went beyond the confines of the classroom. With a determined smile, he headed toward his next class, ready to face whatever challenges, virtual or real, lay ahead.
Stay tuned for part 2 of episode 4, A Whole Lot to Do About Nothing.